So, a little bit of background on me that hopefully gives some credibility. So I'm 41 years old. I started my company, LaSalle Network, when I was 26 years old, which, doing simple math, would be 15 years ago. We are a staffing and recruiting firm. We have 4 offices in Chicago. We have 100 employees, roughly 65 recruiters. We've grown every year since inception, and we work with about 2,000 companies. Last year we placed over 5,000 people, both as contractors as well as permanent searches. We do roughly about $40 million in revenue, and we have offices, 3 in the suburbs, 1 downtown. 95% of our business is local to Chicago, 5% is national searches. We do place people in the skill sets of accounting and finance, technology, administrative, call center, human resources, and marketing. And I think that's about us. So, incorporating Twitter and your profile into your overall social media marketing platform. It is really the goal here. So whether you are the marketing department for a corporation, you're a hiring manager, you're human resources, the question is, how can you use Twitter to find good candidates? And the answer is, you can and you can't, right? So you can sit through this to hear that, right? Waffling and wishy-washy on whether it's useful or not. But the fact of the matter is, it's one aspect to the hiring process. It's something that we all know, right? We're all here, Social Media Week, because of Twitter's a huge aspect of that. So it's one piece of it. It's not some magic sauce that you're going to sit here and walk out here and go, oh, now I can fill every opening that we have in our company because some tall, bald, wonderfully good-looking guy told us about his presentation. So Twitter is really a screening tool. It helps you evaluate the candidates. And it is one other piece of information. Can everybody hear me okay? I don't need the microphone, do I? So it's one other piece of information that you can use when talking to candidates to find out what they're like. So is it 100% accurate? Of course not. Do people make dumb tweets that really don't reflect who they are? Yes, it does. And it's the exact same thing of, if when I was 22, people had cameras on their phones, I wouldn't have a job and I'd be on Lower Wacker Drive instead of up here speaking because of all the silly things that I did in college, right? But the fact of the matter is, you don't want to judge people entirely by what they tweet, but it should give you some insight of how they go about doing their daily business and living their daily life if you want that type of person there. The professionalism, picture, Twitter handle, etc. It depends on the company. Right? If you guys are doing marketing or hiring at the Northern Trust, it's going to be very different than if you're doing it for a startup over 1871 and what you're trying to hire and the type of image you want to portray. But at the end of the day, you've got to know from your leadership team down to your recruiting team and the hiring managers as well of what you all agree on is a standard for acceptable behavior on social media. Because I tell you, you can go through and you can say to people, we want you to behave in this certain way once you're an employee. You know, the best indicator of future performance is past track record, right? So people may change what they do for a short period of time once they get a job, but they will revert back to old behavior. So, and it all depends. I know a lot of CEOs and companies who say, you know what, people want to go out and tweet and they have as their bio, these opinions are my own and not reflective of my company, I'm fine with it. That's a direction that they have to choose. But you just have to be on the same page with your leadership team of what that involves. And then retweeting conversations. Right? We had a situation where we hired a guy internally for my own company. And he was very active on social media, both on Facebook and Twitter, and obviously LinkedIn, which I put in a totally different category. Due to the business stance for that. But he's a very, very, very right-wing guy. And at the same time, he's very, very socially interactive with his clients. They go to concerts, they go to ball games, they go drinking, they become friends, they have social interaction. And all of a sudden, he connected with me and I started looking at it. And I had a problem with it. I thought it was a little bit too extreme. Whether I agreed or didn't agree is really irrelevant. I just thought it was too extreme to have clients seeing that. And then I saw that clients were retweeting it, and I realized the virality of the situation and who could see that, right? Because what I don't know, I can see to an extent, and there's only so much research you're going to do, but you can see who one of your employees is connected to. It's fairly easy without much research, right? What gets harder is to follow where that tweet gets retweeted and retweeted and retweeted and you never know who ends up seeing it, and they track back. Where did this employee of mine get this crazy thought that they're broadcasting all over? Oh, it came from that firm down the street, right? So you never know where things are gonna go. And then the communication style. Is it personal? Is it professional? Is it how you want people typing? And the fact that if you have 142 characters, and this is a huge problem for me, as my marketing team and I realized that I needed to have a bigger presence in social media, and this is probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm a stickler for grammar, and I'm a stickler for my own emails. And I have 3 kids, 9, 11, and 13, and it kills me when I see the U and the lowercase I, and I see it, and you talk about business versus professional. My kids play travel sports, and there's emails coming through, and parents who are sending emails with lowercase I and U, right? And so mentally, it gets to a point where you have to check out of what you think it should be, right? Heck, 15 years ago when I started my company, I never would have worn my shirt untucked and worn a pair of jeans today, right? So we all change. But we justify it too. So for me, I justify this because I'm comfortable. I justify typing because I'm lazy, right? So I think it's really trying to figure out how you want your company to be viewed and making sure that that gets pushed through the entire organization. Because what ends up happening is, whether it's etiquette training, and there's a lot of etiquette trainers now on emails and social media usage and things along those lines, is you can come back to a conference and say, oh, we should do this or we should do that. If it doesn't come from up here and get pushed down all the way through the organization, you're fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting an uphill battle. So when you want to use Twitter to hire, you've got to really be on point of what type of person you want to hire. Because at the end of the day, if leadership or the hiring managers don't care, and you're in charge of trying to bring people into the organization, and you're ruling them out for a reason that you're the only one that cares about it, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Overall personality and culture fit. Too many people want to judge that based on social media, from Facebook posts to tweets to what have you. And my advice to you is, when we have thought people were one way based on that, we meet them, it's a completely different impression. Same thing with email, with resumes, same thing with cover letters. You know, there is a part of the social media, the web world that, you know, I get a little bit old school here, but you can't eliminate the human interaction, right? Unless it's going to be a position that isn't going to be near your corporate culture, right? So if you're managing or hiring people for positions that are all over the country, the state, the world, you have different parameters. And I think too often, as recruiters, the best recruiters I've ever seen, and the best hiring managers, quite frankly, are the ones that can bucket their emotional preference of what they want versus what they need, and how to combine the two. Right? It's really crucial. Critic or creator, right? I think it's pretty obvious what this means, but are they out there just criticizing every single thing that happens? Because let me tell you, if they're doing it in social media, they're that person in your culture that is criticizing every freaking thing that's said. It's what I call the eyeball roller, right? You give a meeting, you give a speech, and they roll, oh, there he goes again, there she goes again, another idea, another initiative, right? The initiatives don't not get executed, double negative. But they don't not get executed. They do not get executed because the C-suite or the executive team isn't pushing them through. They don't get executed because the eyeball rollers and the critics, they don't take the initiative on the next step to push it through. That's the problem. So when you see people who are tweeting and it's always criticizing, always criticizing, always criticizing, you have to decide, is their skill set on their resume so unique that that offsets who they are as a culture buster or a culture creator? Right? But I'm telling you, we've seen this, and we've done tests in our company of people that are critics. And let me tell you, you bring them in for interviews, they're critics, which isn't bad. Certain roles, you need that. You just have to know what you're getting into. And it's pretty funny, right? When you're scrolling through your news feeds and your Twitters, it's funny when you read it, but when your career depends on it, it isn't so funny. Collaborative team player. Can you tell, can you not? It depends. When you see people that use Twitter as a way to blast other people, it screams to me that they're not, right, in their company. Right? Why did my working with a teammate totally drop the ball on this today? And I've seen those. It's like, what? Right? You're going to broadcast that out to the world? Why would you do that? Sharing confidential information. This is really obvious, and you see it when you follow larger companies. Well, really any company tweet, any company handle, and then individual people at those companies, and the types of information that can get relayed. So you got to be really careful when you've got more experienced workers of what they're actually tweeting about. And everybody's level of confidentiality is different, and the transparency that people want to create. Right? But when it's pretty interesting when you start following companies, and what we do a lot of is beta testing. Right? So we'll go after one company or one industry or one skill set and try to follow to see what the trends are in that little area, to see if we can gain something that we can use in a mass market approach. But when you see something where somebody starts tweeting about people that have been fired or hired before there's been an announcement or before the company has said that, you start to think, you know, are the people really, are they seeing the whole big picture? Right? And how you, and really, it goes a lot to not only is that the type of person you want to bring into your organization, but hopefully you do that as how you're managing and disclosing information to your current staff. Thanks for the comments that can be addressed. Evaluating work ethic. Some clues about the job applicant's work ethic. Positive personality and organization fit. Profile supported their qualifications. So, you know, to me, there was a great book that I read 5 or 6 years ago. It was an okay book, but there was a great story in it. And the anecdote was the CEO who started and built this company hired somebody who had qualifications up and down. I mean, they could you know, walk on water and change the weather and do everything, right? And the person came in and couldn't do anything that was on their resume. I mean, they were just, the communication lacked, the execution lacked, it was all talk. And at the end of the day, when the person terminated him, the person said to the woman, he said, I had the resume with him. He said, I hired this. I got you. Right? And it's very critical, but it's accurate a lot of times. That comment, right? We all, I mean, if and when you guys are actually the hiring managers of the situation, even from a human resources perspective, is to go back when you have problems with certain employees and their execution of their abilities, and then you look at their resume after you've hired them, and you reread the bullet points of what they did. A lot of times you see things you didn't see when you were so excited to hire them. Right? You see it 100%, 180 degrees different. They talked about things they coordinated, when in your mind, you thought they were creative. Right? And you see a lot of that when you look at people's tweets, and then you compare that to their profile. Right? So what are they saying about what they do and the projects they're working on? And you can compare that either if they've submitted a resume, to their resume, or to their LinkedIn profile, or to what's going on in the company if it's public information you can Google. So when you're looking to hire, what Twitter really is a resource to help you gain more information on the people that you're considering. References from others on profiles. No, I think it's fairly obvious. The key is, are you going into people's following, right? Who everybody's following on Twitter. Because that can tell you some things too. It's not people follow random stuff because they want to get data, they want to get information, they want to learn new things. But at the same time, you can see who they're following within their own organization. Right? Someone says, oh, I'm all about research, I'm all about knowing my industry, I'm all about networking. Right? In their Twitter account of who they're following, if they're not following anybody in the industry and it's only a social resource for them, the question is, why wouldn't you be using this wonderful tool that can give you up to the minute, up to the second, instant data and information about everything you're looking for? So you can start to ferret out if people are really doing what they say based on public information. And then extracurricular activities. And it really comes down to, is that important to you? And it's not for me or anybody else to say what's important to your company or you as hiring professionals. But if you want people who are team players, it's people who spread themselves a little bit thin that you want, because they're doing philanthropic, they're doing team environment, and the key is, if they're willing to do those things in a situation where they're not getting paid in a volunteer activity, they're usually going to be pretty good ringleaders for what the culture you're trying to create in your own company. The key is giving them that vehicle and that avenue to execute. They make the right hire. Showing passion for their field, passing along useful articles, sharing original insights. Are they curious? Are they involved? There's only so much you can tell by the written word. However, all of us, I would imagine, I know I have been moved by books and articles and journals and things like that appeal to us. And there's certain times you can read something in a tweet that really gets you thinking. And it can be a retweet, or it can be an original thought. But when you're looking at somebody, at a manager, at a director, at a vice president, a C-level person, and they're active on Twitter, and they're taking the time to write something, to wonder if it really moves you is something you should be challenging yourself with. And you should be asking of these people. Is somebody who wants to be a director, wants to be a vice president, who's an up-and-comer, and they're going to be a leader of people, how do they use the written word to communicate amongst their teams? Reading between the characters. What's in a tweet? Right? You can overanalyze it to death. So a lot of times you have to see how far on the offensive line does it take you, right? Because if it's really out there and bad, right, you're going to nix that person. But if it's somewhere in this, bless you, if it's somewhere in this gray area, you need to make sure that you don't eliminate that. Feeling good after that psych test, treating myself to a nice dinner, exams time. That's a great tweet. They're sharing that with their friends, with their family, with people who are following them, to know what's going on and what they feel. Excited to attend using Twitter to land a job September 24th. Tom Gimbel's awesome. And that's a great thing you guys should be writing. Proud to be captain of an undefeatable volleyball team. There's nothing wrong with that. You're interviewing somebody who's all business and they're playing golf. You can learn something by that. Applicants are screening you. Right? It's a two-way street. So one of the things that my business does is, in addition to search and staffing, is we do a lot of temp to perm business, contract to permanent. So we bring people in, they go through an interview process just like you would for a permanent, and then it becomes a temporary contract or project until it gets converted over to permanent. And what most corporations think is that they're trying out the employee to see if it's a good culture fit and a good skill fit. Right? What they forget is that the employee is trying out the client as well. And we have a surprisingly high number of candidates that when it gets to month 2 or month 3, they say, you know what? This isn't what I want to do. And the client, oh my God, they wasted 2 months of our time. How could they do this? Have you expressed to us or to them that you were sure you were going to hire? Well, no, we weren't sure yet. Right? Same exact thing, right? You don't want to fall into that same situation with Twitter and not think that people are looking at what your tweets are and what your company's tweets are. Now, depending on where you fit in the Marcom world of your organization, you might not have control over what the company's sending out. However, from an individual basis, if you're sending out goofy tweets or this or that or the other thing, and people see that, that has a reflection on the company, and that can directly affect you. I was working with a company about 2 months ago, and the hiring manager had an account, and she had her first and last name as her handle, and it worked. You know, fine, great employee, been there for 7 years. Company was doing great. She was great, but she got with some college friends. They were tweeting and all this stuff, and all of a sudden, the candidate saw it, and then went to HR and said, "You know what? This was kind of offensive what I read," and then this person ended up getting in trouble. Right? Kept her job in the whole 9 yards, but it created a hullabaloo. And she was telling me the story. And I said, what do you do? She goes, I stopped. I didn't care about it. Because I don't need it. I had a bunch of friends. Right? So sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing and who you're offending, and you got to be careful. But they're checking on you as much as you're checking on them. Building your page, Twitter handle, first and last name. Pretty basic stuff. But if you're talking to somebody that you want to represent your organization, or you want to do this, and you have a job you care about, and you want to be stable, the question is, how much are you willing to put yourself on the line? And how willing do you want somebody else to be? But a good first name, last name handle. Normal headshot. I mean, people do different icons and pictures of Bart Simpson or Superman, and no one's going to not hire somebody because of that usually. However, again, I come from a world where if my goal is to hire somebody, or my job is to represent my company, or to get hired, I want to be as conservative as possible. Right? That's just, when there's the more that's riding on the situation, the more conservative I want to be. But, you know, everybody's different, and you got to realize what you're up against. Description section, right? So, you have your title and your position. Some people say it, some people don't. The key is if you put it up there, it adds credibility to your tweets. Right? A lot of people go on different websites and they say, "Oh, this is a great website." Other people say, "You know what? It's all anonymous. I don't give it any credibility for it." I happen to be of that latter group. And so, if you're going to go on there and tweet for your company in order to attract people, or expect people to tweet in order to who you want to represent your brand, let's be out there. Let's tell people who we are. Open and honest. Unique, appealing description of the company, what the company does, and link to the company website. Building a following, right? Virality is the key to the whole thing. If you only have 72 followers or 18 followers or a low number of followers, the odds of it getting retweeted or getting out to where you want to go is few and far between. So if we really want to hire with Twitter, and we want to attract a different talent base than it's going to be on Career Builder or Monster or Indeed or Craigslist or what have you, or Dice, right? Then we've got to figure out how to make our tweets go viral. Search for people, don't wait to be found. Right? So who are you following? Are you only following people in your field? Are you following people in business overall? Are you following people who have a lot of followers? That's the key, right? But then not so many followers that you don't matter. It's a really tough nut to crack, right? So it's great if you get, depending on what space you're in, but if you get tweeted by somebody who's got 500,000 followers, which is an ungodly amount of followers, and they're in a different space in a different part of the world, in the country, that doesn't help you. Right? So can you use your personal interests in order to push through your professional agenda? Right? And you know, that's really the key to virality. So if you want to see what's happening right now on advanced search and what's trending, so we took this snapshot. When did we take that snapshot, Heather?
Yesterday.
Yesterday afternoon. So it says on what's going on, you can see SMW Chicago and Newsnight and the different things. So, and that's by not only the initial tweeters and the hashtags, but the retweets and where that's going. So who to follow? $1 million question. Think about it. Honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, it's easy to read a tweet, go to that person and follow them, but to really think about where I want to network. Where do I want to go? And the great thing about this is you can go to, it's not like, you know, old-fashioned networking like we're doing here this week. You can go to as many places as you want, as often as you can. But the key is this. It's not the idea that succeeds or fails, it's the execution of the idea that succeeds or fails. So if you put yourself and you say, oh, I'm going to go and try to network virtually in this space, or this vertical, or this vertical, and then you don't follow up on it, and you don't tweet on it, and you don't post tweets on their accounts, and you don't retweet theirs and yours, then what are you doing? Just following people isn't enough. You have to get into that world. Each connection is a gateway to a larger applicant pool. It's a free public platform. Right? But when things are free, they get abused. Limitless space to share in real time. Company news, research data, jobs. You want to be taken seriously by your job seekers. So tweet seriously about things that are affecting your company. If it's been okayed by whomever in your company, then publicly disclose it. If your company just hit their quarter goals, tweet that. Say what your industry is. Give people a reason. When our company made the Inc. list of fastest growing companies, We did the research. We found out we were the only staffing and recruiting firm in Illinois to make it 7 years in a row. Right? I wanted everybody tweeting that out. Everybody. And hoping that it got retweeted and retweeted and retweeted. Because all of a sudden, I had 97 people internally who knew, and a few hundred or 1,000 clients that knew. Once we got on Twitter and everybody was doing it, there were, I forget the numbers that we ended up tracking it to, it was like 27,000 people had known about something that they didn't know about before as a result of this meeting. Mentioned, okay? So when you want to build up virality, you have got to go on other people, you have to retweet other people's thoughts, and also making sure that you're adding your name in there, combining the two, right? So when you, I'm going to say this wrong, I know exactly what I want to say, and I always screw it up. Jessica and Heather in the back are laughing. But when you see something, you can retweet it, right? And it'll show that tweet. You can also combine it so you retweet their handle in there. So when people go and look up their name, they'll see your name. That is the key. Okay? You need to make sure that you combine your handle and their handle. Okay, people want to do hashtags all day long, and I think it's great, but I think it's much more effective when you want to do it from a corporate perspective to include their handle and your handle in the same tweet. It's crucial. When they get your name in their feeds, then you're starting to get the virality. Don't regard context with quantity, aim for quality interactions. A lot of people, you get desperate, and you just start bombarding them with, they have to be following you for the direct message, but you'll start putting tweets on their handle. And what you're going to find out is you get ignored. You become part of the white noise. You don't want that. You need to think of things that are interesting to somebody and think about how many tweets they're getting every single day, week, month, year, and how yours prioritized. You need to hit something that strikes a nerve with them that gets them to respond. Because at the end of the day, people love recognition. Right? Let's just admit this. Twitter, Facebook, call it what it is. Whether you're 100% in or you're on the outside deciding whether to put your dip your toe in the water, these are narcissistic vehicles. Right? Extremely narcissistic vehicles. And I'm not making fun of anybody for it. Right? It's true. Right? You know, what it used to be with email and photographs on your phone, it used to be, you and I love going to the Bears games, and you move out of town, and I go to the Bears game. I would email you a picture at the Bears game because I'm thinking of you, right? Now I go to the Bears game and I put it up because I think everybody wants to see a picture of me, right? And it's the exact same thing with Twitter, right? So people are out there and they're posting their thoughts, and if nobody responded, it would end up going away. Right? You see a lot of, follow people who have some people, not necessarily organizations, but people who've got huge followings. Right? So last week, I decided to follow Donald Trump. Right? And I'm not saying that Donald Trump even responds to his own, which is another issue of following people. Right? You don't know if they do it themselves or not, which creates a whole other circle, which we can do for 4.5-hour presentation. Right? But the fact of the matter is, Trump says thanks to some of the dumbest things you've ever seen people ask. Right? And I'm sitting there going, why is this happening? Because everybody loves it, right? No one loves recognition more than Trump. But if you see all these different people and the type of interactions they get, and then thanks. And so with me, when I follow people, I'll get email, I'll get it back, and people say, thanks for the follow, all the time. You guys got that? Thanks for the follow, right? Why? Because they want you to retweet. They want you to follow them, like them. They're building a relationship with you. And especially if you tweet somebody who's got a lot of followers, and then you see it and you're like, shit, pardon my French, they think they're thanking me. There must be something there. And it begins to build a relationship. And what they're doing is smart, but they're getting you to retweet. Right? So happy username. But uses the handle, puts in the hashtag, and adds RT so that people know it's a retweet. Versus just retweeting and it says that it's a retweet, but it doesn't have your name. attracts the right people. If people are following, what's hashtags become? Hashtags have become a running joke in a small group of friends for a lot of people, right? Hashtag love McDonald's, I'm hungover, right? That's about half my office. So we've got to make sure that we realize the use of hashtags to make people laugh versus the use of hashtags for a business function and what we're trying to get people following. And I know a lot of people that are using hashtags that can be confused with some other ones in order to get followed by other people, right? It's a great strategy. It's a great strategy. Right? The key is, are you following up on it and are you seeing where people come from? Categorize your tweets to be searchable. Right? Once people start following you and they want to see all of your thoughts and all the things that are going on with your company, it's very important. Depends on the nature of the tweet. The company information, job posting, and industry news. Tweets that have hashtags are 2 times more likely to have interaction. Use a maximum of 2 hashtags. And don't be so cute that you have such a run-on hashtag that people are going to spell it wrong. You know, people are going to take it. Maybe they don't just retweet it, but they type it someplace else. They put it on a Facebook page. Whatever can happen. Things that are simple and easy work better. Interaction. Retweet interesting industry information. So what will end up happening is you say, okay, I want to build up a brand. The key thing with this is it's like running a marathon, right? I just know this from friends, because God knows I do. But when you run a marathon, you build up the training, right? 5 miles, 7 miles, 10 miles, 10 miles, 10 miles, 12, right? It takes time. It takes months for people to train for a marathon. It's the exact same thing we're doing when we're building up our social media cachet, right? We're building this up. You're not going to go and start doing these things and in 30 days have a flood of applicants and have a better brand recognition. This is really years, but at the very least 6, 9, 12 months of time to start to develop this, to get a good, solid foundation of followers. Be involved in relevant conversations. Don't retweet just to retweet. The easiest thing to do is to use Twitter on your phone, see interesting headlines, hit the retweet button. The easiest thing to do. Especially if your internet service is slow on your phone and it won't go and you can't open it up and all of a sudden you just hit retweet. The fact of the matter is, when you read the content of that article, that's not the message you want to be sending out to the marketplace, right? So it is really a quality versus quantity situation, but it's got to be a dedicated force. Join chats. It's important. You want to be in the conversation. You want to be in the conversation. Initiate discussions. You got to have a lot of followers. You got to have a lot of followers. When you have few followers and you're initiating a conversation and there's nobody in it, that doesn't look good either. Right? So you want to make sure that it's a topic that is interesting to the masses and not just to you. Again, the goal is to know what you want to accomplish. What is your mission in what you're doing? If your mission is to expand your brand, to attract people to want to work there at your organization, then you've got to make a discussion that appeals to those people, not to you. Right? When you want to hire people, you're selling to them. When you reverse that to make sure that they're interested in you and they need to sell themselves, it's a different conversation. But for this, you want to start a conversation to attract people, to create virality, and get your message out there. Start a discussion that's appealing to the masses, not appealing to the few. Pose and answer questions. Tweeting jobs. 140 character job pitch, right? Fairly on. Be direct and concise. 120 characters, so nothing is cut when retweeted. So if somebody adds an RT, they add their own handle on there, and all of a sudden your job posting is cut off. If you do 120, you're usually pretty simple. What's sexy about the job? Right? 3 things that sizzle when you're trying to hire someone, when you're trying to sell a job. Okay? The position itself, the company, or the manager. Right? Great job working for a 28-year-old whiz kid who's hit 2 home runs. top 2 company in our industry, right? 28% EBITDA. Only job like this in the Chicago metro area, whatever the case may be, right? It's something that pops about something about the position. And a lot of people say to me, it's an admin job. How sexy can it be? Right? I said, I don't know. I got a job that we were working on for somebody where they took their admin on their private jet to all their major meetings. He goes, really? Oh, yeah. He goes, I don't have a private jet. That's why his job's better than yours. Right? Link to the full, but the difference is, the guy with the private jet, he knew it was a good job. So guess what he did? Paid less. Right? The more candidates you have, you can drive the salary down. Link to the full job. Pull in, don't push out. Right? The biggest problem we make is we get flooded with too many people. We get in this point of, now my time's being used the wrong way. Right? So when I can't find people, I'm spinning my wheels, and it's not working. But then when I get too many people, I start to figure out how to screen out. Right? You can't do that. You got to take it all in. You got to take it all in. So you want to pull people in. Make tweets consistent. Generate followers organically. Right? You can't be all over the place. Right? We all have, no, we shouldn't say we all. Majority of people have some diagnosed or undiagnosed form of ADD. Right? And the more you're doing the same routine over and over and over again, the same tweets, you gotta stay on message for what you want it to be. If you're going to be a thought leader and be able to attract people. Don't frantically tweet only when posting a job opening. If that's all it's going to be, you're not going to get any responses. No one's going to retweet your stuff. And if they do, they're going to retweet it to the other 138 followers that they have. It's not going to get you much farther than putting an ad on Career Builder. Attract both passive and active job seekers. I think it's the actual #1 thing with Twitter that can really be. Is that you can get somebody who is a passive job seeker, who's reading through their regular stuff during the day, and they see a position posted, that if it's right, if it's sexy enough, if the sizzle is there, that they will entertain clicking on the link right? Which is really the biggest differentiator between the job board. And repeat truth throughout the day. So we did, a lot of this is just research that we did internally, but the best time to tweet. And avoid posting after 8 p.m. on Monday, right? Because what ends up happening is it gets buried. People might look when they're trying to kill time, but at the end of the day, people look through the most recent stuff. And you want people to go in and do specialized searches based on hashtags, and maybe they think you're a comedian and they want to go in and see your stuff. The majority of people aren't doing that. You want to attract them at the times that they're at their most opportune time to retain and retweet. Become a thought leader. If you really care about your job, if you really care about your career, if you really care about your company, then become a thought leader. You can be an administrative assistant, you can be in marketing, you can be in finance, you can be in compliance, you can be, in any role in the company. But be a thought leader. Know what's really going on in your space and in your industry. And if you do that, it permeates through social media. Keep them following. Keeping followers is keeping referrals. We all want to get referrals. Right? People will say it all day long. How did you find people? Oh, our best people were referred to us by our best people. Right? There's no reason that this cannot be another avenue to continue that trend. Be engaged in conversations. Stay active. The worst thing you can do is be doing this for a month or 2 months or 3 months and then stop. And then think you can pick it up 3 or 4 months later. It's like running into a brick, it's like driving your car into a brick wall, right? The car may still run, but when you get it going, it's going to sputter. It's all dented, it's screwed up, the front of the wheels are going against the car. It just doesn't work as well, right? Keep it going. Make it a part of what you do every day, every week. Tweet often, but not in bursts. Right? So we all pop on Twitter, we see repetitive things that are just silly by somebody over and over and over again. We think, what is this? And a lot of times we stop following them. Right? Remember, what is somebody thinking who's looking at your tweets? You always have to ask yourself that question and follow your followers.
all I have.